Hi, so in this video I'm going to go through the process of obtaining the new traits for your Ashbringer in patch 7.2. It doesn't just automatically come with the patch, there is a quest line to do that. Now the first part of this is going to go through that process, give you a little bit of idea of what's going to be involved, how long it might take you. There are spoilers in this. I'm going to also explain the story, what goes on behind it. If you don't want to know about that story, but you do want to know about what my thinking is in terms of the path of traits you should take, because I'm going to cover that as well, then click pause right now, go to the description, look at the timestamp that says, traits, and click on that and it'll take you to that portion of the video. So in order to actually get hold of these traits, it might take you an hour or a bit more. It's very hard to say. First of all, you're going to have to do all the scenario stuff and the quests on the Broken Shore, which I described in my previous video, which is on getting ready for 7.2 launch day. After that, you get a random item by killing mobs. You have to have completed the first couple of quests first, it seems. And then you get a random quest item. You've actually got a quest to get it. You go to Khadgar. He advises you to go to Dalaran. You need to meet with the Council of Six. You go to the Violet Tower. And then it is suggested that this is not for pioneers. You should go somewhere private. So you and the mages, which doesn't actually appear to be six, but never mind, maybe I'm the sixth, go up the stairs, you go into a door, and lo and behold, there's some demons there, which they seem to take care of. So they're talking about the fact that, the Legion are everywhere. They're not confined to the Broken Shore. They're sort of popping up everywhere around Azeroth. And they say that you are going to be instrumental in taking care of some of these agents. They give you a quest to take care of a couple. But also the scroll that you found, it's suggested that you try and find out. There's a prophecy in it that concerns someone. Now, you're sent to meet with a Vrykul in Suramar. You are also advised that it would be sensible not to mention that you're the one who's killed Skovald, because they are his people, or at least were. So you go to Suramar and you talk to this guy. He sends you to another person, they send you to another person. You know how these things go. You eventually end up meeting with someone called Sigrin. She turns out to be the daughter of Skovald and therefore potentially heir to the throne. Now, when you've met her, she suggests that you go to Aya about this prophecy. She's never really heard anything about it. So once you arrive there, Aya explains that she foresaw someone uniting the Tidescorn who was descended of the God King and Shield Maiden. She advises that the daughter of Skovald needs to defeat all who would dispute her claim to the throne. So we travel around Stormheim. There's a little bit of travel time here. It's worth, if you haven't already, making sure you've got all the flight points, because that will save you a lot of time. Obviously, make sure you've got your whistle handy. And it ends up with meeting her brother. She didn't actually know her brother was still alive. And he and his sister, it turns out, as described, were fed fell material while children by Skovald. They had something in their blood that resists the fell, but her brother, when faced with certain death by assassins that had been sent to kill her mother, herself and her brother, gave in to the fell, and it took him over. He was able to use the strength the fell gave him to defeat his attackers and survive. Sigrin is forced to kill her brother because she's appalled that he's given into the fell, but with his dying breath he advises her to find out who sent the assassins to kill them all. So having defeated all who would dispute her claim, we return to Aya, and Sigrin agrees to be queen and unite the Tidescorn, but insists on being told who sent the assassins first. Aya says that no good will come of knowing, but will tell her if she insists. She does, and Aya reveals that it was Odin himself, who feared that they were going to deliver the Vrykul to the Legion because of the fell taint. Sigrin becomes enraged and succumbs to the fell herself, calling out Odin and the Keepers in general as having no more honour than the Legion, swearing revenge on him and promptly disappearing. When you return to the Council of Six, they imbue your weapon with greater power, unlocking your new traits. Quite why they didn't think of doing that before they sent you off to the perilous quest is anyone's guess, but you know how mages, and when it comes to it, any classes that can be played by gnomes somehow think. So, assuming you have at least 35 traits in your artifact weapon, you now have access to the new traits. You still have to have got the old 35 first. Now this opens up a number of possibilities. You can get new traits, or you can add an extra point to many of the other traits that are already on your Ashbringer. In fact, all of the ones that currently have 3 points in them are eligible to have a 4th point added. And I know what you're all thinking. I know what you're all thinking. You're thinking, ooh, I'll go for another point in Wrath of the Ashbringer. Now, first of all, if I'm going to assume at this point you are on 54 artifact trait points. You may not be, and if you're not, then you'll get less than I'm just about to describe. But if you were on the maximum, which is 54 points, you're going to have the last 19 of them taken off you. They're gone. And you're going to have the artifact power refunded. Now, I know what you're asking is straight away. Hang on a minute. 14.5% of my damage has just gone south. Here's the thing. First of all, there's been an extra 5% extra damage baked into your weapon. Then there is another trait called Ferocity of the Silver Hand, which will be available, which increases your damage and stamina by 10%. So this will actually mean you gain slightly out of it, but it also obviously means this is the first one you get. No matter what you're thinking in terms of the others, that is the absolute first one you get. Now, at this point, it is still perceived wisdom that you should continue to get all of the new traits first before you start plonking them into the other ones. So you want to get the next one, you put your points into Righteous Verdict. This means that Holy Power spending abilities increase the damage on your next Blade of Justice or Divine Hammer, depending on what you've got. After that, the trait Blessing of the Ashbringer. So this means when you've got your Greater Blessings active, and of course you should, then you get 2,000 strength. Very nice, very tasty. And then the final one is Judge Unworthy. So when you deal damage to a target afflicted by judgment, 50% chance to spread to a nearby target. Really annoying. I don't like that randomness aspect to it, even though it's as high as 50%, so it should in theory happen half the time. Reasonable. It's still going to be fairly powerful in a cleave or AoE situation where you've got more than 2 targets. So yes, you want to get this one first. Now, after that, and remember, it's going to cost, you're going to need to save up an awful lot of artifact power to even be able to do that. So it's going to take some time. Don't be thinking of it in terms of you're going to be able to get this out of the way quickly. If you were on 54 artifact trait points, you will be able to get 4 new traits. That's not very much. So we're talking some time down the line here. But once you have got those 4 filled in, now you can finally go for Wrath of the Ashbringer and get yourself a 4th point in Wrath of the Ashbringer. So that'll get you an extra 2.5 seconds on your crusade. Once you've done that, at the moment what we're looking at is another point in Deliver the Justice. This is the one that increases the damage done by your Blade of Justice. Once you've done that, then the next one can sort of depend. It's between Righteous Blade or Might of the Templar. Might of the Templar is the one that increases your Templar's Verdict damage. Righteous Blade is the one that increases your Divine Storm damage. You need to ask yourself, in terms of the content you do, which is going to be most valuable to you. If you're doing a lot of Mythic Plus dungeons, then it's very likely Divine Storm. If you're doing a lot more sort of raid type situations, even though there's a fair amount of cleave in Nighthold, then you're probably still going to be talking Templar's Verdict, you know, all that boss damage. So for that one, it sort of depends, but get those 2 next in whichever order you see fit. After that, of course, then the only 2 damage ones remaining should be High Lord's Judgment, which increases the damage done by your judgment, or the Sharpened Edge, which increases the critical strike chance of your Crusader Strike. Now, for that one, it might again vary. So again, this is another 2 that I'm going to say sort of one follows the other. It's not necessarily going to make a huge difference as far as I can tell which one which. Maybe I would be thinking more in terms of the Judgment one, but I don't know. It seems a little close to me. I might change my mind in the next couple of weeks when I bring out a more detailed 7.2 guide. I might have changed on that one, but at this point, I would say those 2 next. And then, of course, you might as well finish off with your Embrace the Light, with your increased Flash of Light, and then, of course, Deflection, which reduces the cooldown of Shield of Vengeance. Probably more the Shield of Vengeance cooldown first. The final one, of course, being the cooldown reduction on Blessing of Protection, Protector of the Ashen Blade. It'll be a hell of a lot of artifact power needed to get this one, like 400 million. Oh my goodness. Once you've done that, then you have access to Concordance of the Legion Fall. This is our new, oh, you finished your artifact. here, spend your extra points on this thing that'll never be completed. Now, of course, it wasn't really true before. It's sort of true now. There's 50 points potentially to be spent in here. Don't even think about getting all 50. Oh my goodness, the artifact power required here. Of course, we are still getting artifact knowledge while this all goes on. So, you know, it's not going to be as bad as it perhaps seems. But we're certainly not going to be looking at getting this finished realistically. But each one you spend just means that you can increase your overall output. It may well be that you think of these as paragon points, that's what people are going to call them. It may well be that you can have one of these by the time Tomb of Sargeras opens. I don't really want to comment on that, of course it depends on how much artifact power grinding you're going to do each week until that comes out in probably just under 3 months' time. So there we go. That is the story of how we're going to get the Ashbringer new traits, and that is how I personally would spend them. I will be doing a much more detailed one as part of an overall revamped 7.2 guide in a few weeks' time. I'm going to let the dust settle, let a few things change around. You know how it goes when a new patch comes out before I bring that one out. But this is certainly the way I'm going to go with it. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it interesting. As always, if you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share for further content. And until next time, I'll see you later.